Right.
So I think all of you heard Paul. I think he has set a wonderful context. So just wanted to give you the flow of the day because not all theory is good. So the idea today is that maybe we have 10 of these. So Professor Paul has not introduced it, but probably after the tea I can take 5-10 minutes and give you the flow. So we have this what the author has called as the value proposition canvas. So as per the author Alexander Osterwalder, who did this business model canvas, so you start with your product and you have two sides. One is on your customer segment, talking about the gains and the pains and the customer jobs, and then you try to build a correlation that how your product is creating gains for your customer, solving the pains, which part of the customer job that you are solving with your product. So this is where you start. Once you do these two things, then you are able to fit them here. So many people run businesses, but if you ask them to clearly define the value proposition, maybe they are not able to do it, let's say 100%. Maybe they are able to do 70%. So with these two tools, you can always keep iterating. And I think also Paul emphasized that if you change one block, then you can go and look at what is the change in other blocks. I think what was really amazing in your presentation when you talked about those choices in the canvas, I think they were very interesting. So I think each one of us here are part of some business organization, and those choices are being made. So maybe we can use today, let's say an hour, and join ourselves in small groups, like 2 to 3 people, and take this one product or business that you like. It could be your own, or it could be somebody else that you want to look at it in a different way. And then we can, regroup, and maybe one of you could come and share with us in, let's say, 2 or 3 minutes, what did you learn from this exercise? So maybe what we can do is we can break for the tea, maybe take 15 minutes, just say hello to each other. We regroup in this room. I take another 15 minutes, just show you some more material that could be useful to you. And I am happy to also email you the soft copies of the material. And you look at the business problem, take your peers together, and this diversity also in the room will bring new perspective. And then let's say between 12:30 to 1 we can have those 5-minute presentations, so that we can hear, everybody can learn. So, and we conclude by 1 is that, and maybe we have last words from Dr. Singh for the session today, and we break for the lunch. Is that something acceptable to each one of you?
May I suggest?
Please.
I have gone through both these books.
Yeah.
And many of these concepts are new, and unfortunately the author has not elaborated each concept as much as he should have. He has given just one page to each concept, and to juxtapose those concepts onto healthcare will require some hands holding. So
Right.
if you could devote half an hour to explain the concepts which are there on these
Right.
two books, the main building blocks of the topic,
Right.
and relevant and its relationship to healthcare, it would be a great service.
Sure. So I think we could also do it this way, that maybe we have a lot of senior people also here, like Professor Paul is there, Professor Venkat is there, who have also been working. So they will also be part of the teams. So I think that will also, maybe we give also work to professors in that sense. And any other point if you have, or we break for tea? So are we good? So we regroup in 15 minutes. Thank you. Saying that tea drinkers are more creative than coffee drinkers. So I don't know whether I should make such controversial statements, because I'm sure that there are enough coffee drinkers also.
I think this must be a marketing tool to increase the demand for tea rather than coffee.
Yeah. So I was just trying to see what is an icebreaker. So anyways, I think this together. So maybe that gives a bit of clarity so that when we break into groups, maybe it's easier to do it. So I'll proceed on that, but I just want to give you a formal introduction on this tool. So I was running a workshop for Danish companies in December, and that's what gave me the idea that we should be running this workshop in this club also, because sometimes we are very obsessed with our business or our idea that we are not able to take a step back and probably also involve others, because especially in this kind of a setting we are very diverse, so that gives also us an opportunity to bring new insights. So so we are using today somebody's invention or creation, so I just want to give them due credit. So I was back in 2008, I was in Geneva, and this guy Alexander Osterwalder was running his first workshop, and my job was as a volunteer to hand him sticky notes. So he asked somebody from the audience that who could do this for me. So I was just there, then. So that's just a coincidence, but it's very interesting. So this guy, he was doing his PhD in business models, and with his professor, he came up with this thesis that they could do a lot of good by helping people make their business models razor sharp. So when he presented this, so this is just some old statistics that this business model canvas has been downloaded more than 5 million times already. So if anybody is doing a startup, I'm sure that they are pretty familiar with this framework. So maybe a show of hands who is not familiar. So that kind of justifies, maybe that why I need to give this explanation today. But before that, some quiz. So we want to guess anybody your favorite business model. Uber. Anybody?
My favorite model is always Apple.
Apple. So somehow I already have these two. So any third?
Buy it high, sell it cheap.
So
Retailing.
so I think I was recently reading that somebody is building a company in America based on how Uber drivers can deliver other stuff. So like Uber is a platform, right? So you can imagine when you have a company like Uber, you can do this such a canvas every day, because you have a lot of people already into the system, but maybe they are underutilized just as a driver, but they could also act, doing many things. But this book, then Alexander published, it was self-published book, and it would be very ironical if his business model was same as what Paul's business model or Dr. Singh's model is to publish books. So he said my book publishing model has to also be different. So he asked people to write in the book, they have to pay money. The first guy would be paying, let's say, $200. But as the next guy comes, has to pay more. So this book, I think they had more than few hundred people writing in it. The last guy paid around $2,500.
Raman, be careful next time.
So the idea was that can we gather enough money, right? That we don't have to go to a typical Ville or CRC or anybody like that. And plus we have enough number of people who would go out and spread the book. So the book became a major hit because of this strategy. So I found this, how the book also was created was a unique business model. And of course, I think after a year he gave the book to Ville. So he couldn't resist, making extra money once he made that whatever number of dollars. But I think most of you also know these two people here, right? Who doesn't know? Is there anyone in the room who doesn't know the people in the room? Right? So Dhruv doesn't know, Sarvesh doesn't know, and Ankit doesn't know, Abhinav doesn't know. So, so this book, Infinite Vision, is a book on Dr. Arvind's case study. And I read this book, so I realized that some 150,000 students of Harvard Business School have read the case study about Arvind since 1993. And maybe this statistics is but that shows that many of us in India do not know as much about Arvind as, say, students in Harvard do know. So that's so fascinating and so amazing. And the other guy is Dr. Devi Shetty from Narayana.
This is there now in the regional languages also, and this low edition is out of print, and they have migrated to the high price range.
Right. So why I'm bringing these two gentlemen here, I think Paul also brought at least one of them into the. So I don't know, Paul, why didn't you study Devi Shetty also?
No,
Maybe you
they have done it. They have done a separate research. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think both of these two people are very interesting from business model aspect and also the kind of work that you do. So
Sachin, a small interruption. I'm sorry.
yeah.
This is chapter number 18 in the Dr. V.K. Singh's and Paul Ryan's book, a comparison of Narayan Hridayalaya efficiency and with another hospital in Finland. Dr. Paul as well as my colleague are the co-authors. What drives this efficiency is very interesting. If any of you are interested, please refer to chapter number 18. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's very difficult for a person like me to speak among the company of professors. Yeah, so it's difficult to hold the fort. But when I was asked by my friend to run this workshop for the Danish companies, that's where I was doing all this research after 10 years. So I did this exactly 10 years back with Alexander. But when I was looking at it, this time I was just looking at health. And some of the UK incubators, they are running a 12-week workshop on this canvas alone. So while this canvas looks like pretty simple, right? But when you're doing a serious startup and some of the incubators, they want you to do this one block in a week. So they send you in the field, they want you to do real homework, come back. So there's a lot of background material that I could find. Unfortunately, the format of this workshop doesn't allow that I could do that 12-week thing you can imagine in an hour. So that's not possible. But I'm more than happy to, as I said, that I could share all that material. It's publicly available as well. You can also download. But I can send you by mail also. So I think what quote on the screen is trying to emphasize is that, which is specific to healthcare, that many times in healthcare the time you take to reach market is very long, especially say in biotech and other kind of companies. So it becomes very costly to fail. And I think when you do anything like this in an iterative manner, if you are able to reduce your risk, that is the idea. So that's why they are very keen on running such canvas-related workshops with healthcare organizations so that they can reduce their market risk. The cost of failure, let's say, if they only come to know after 2 years of hard work that they're failing, could they have known it earlier? Like, I think Paul also hinted about like taking Arvind to Finland and then realizing there are only 3 doctors who could do entire cataract in Finland. So then it was okay for moving from Arvind Eye to a mega clinic for dental, right? So I think that was a very strong insight. So I don't know how early they recognized it, and let's say they would have gone into eye care and then later switching to dental. So of course that would have been a costly thing. So I don't know if you want to throw any insight, like how they, was it very early that they could find that out, or what was the process?
It was very early indeed, because we didn't make any investments at all in the, I think, when we realized that Empire is going to strike back. But the idea was sort of alive, and funny as it sounded, it was pure coincidence that Mr. Mikola ran into this dentist who entertaining similar kind of ideas, but he came from the sort of dental perspective, and these two minds then met, then came the idea. So that happens in entrepreneurship innovation. It's pure coincidence. Depends on whom you meet and where you go.
So we cannot attribute to any systematic process, but to serendipity.
No, not really. But you have prepared minds that meet, then these things happen.
Yeah. So I was trying to explain this process, and I think at least in this room, we have Ankit who is building a company or trying to build a company coming from an outsider perspective, not from healthcare, but from technology. And I think Abhinav also coming from a very outside perspective. So this is just a step-by-step process that I figured out in my research. It's pretty obvious to people who have been doing it, but I think the first step is that whatever product you have, you take it and you try to validate few of the things. So first step essentially is the customer interviews. And when we are looking at this sheet here, so it talks about customer gains, customer pains, and customer jobs. So you cannot fill this without talking to customer. If you're filling this without talking to customer, essentially you are making assumptions. And I think in most cases, when people are really experienced, they want to make more assumptions than really going and testing it out in the market. I think it's also key that how much of the substance that you write here is an assumption or is a validated point. And it's not easy, right, to do that. And once you do this, and if you have a product in mind, right, could you build a correlation that the gain your product is creating, maybe there are 4, and maybe the customer's gains that you're looking at, let's say, or the pains that you're looking at are say 10, but your product is only solving 4 of them. I think that correlation from a product management perspective also opens doors for future product evolvement, right? So that you are present that okay, your product is not solving everything. But I think it comes from here, that you get your customer interviews and you try to understand their gains, pains, what are their jobs, and that the product that you are proposing is what kind of gains it is creating and what kind of pains it is removing, right? So, since Dr. Raman asked me to do this in a kind of a joint thing, right? So let's just take this club as a product, right, for a moment, right? And I invite all of you to probably start. If you are the customers of this club anyways, right? So what are your pains? I need one volunteer. Clarence, can you join me? And so we will just make down, a note of this. So Clarence, can you write down one sticky note, one idea at a time? Do you have a pen? No. Yeah, take this. So we are talking about customer, so you can write down and you start sticking to this sheet. Yeah. So Professor Venkat, you are saying what is your pain?
Pain is spending today's time, Sunday, in spite of lot of pending.
Busy schedule.
Busy
Is that one keyword?
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Lack of awareness.
Lack of awareness. Anybody else?
Lack of forums to discuss the idea.
Lack of form. So let me just contradict you just in a healthy way. We have this forum, but we have lack of people. So maybe you put here in pains. All of them, one idea at a time. Yeah. You keep doing that. So I'll still write it. Lack of forums. Okay?
Maybe you have people in forum who are not interested in that forum.
Yeah.
So the forum is not actually targeting the people who are more interested.
Right. No. So first rule. First rule of running this workshop is. By the way, I'll come back to this. But
when you ask for a pain, there are always lots of. When you ask for a solution, there are less.
yeah. But more pains.
Inertia.
Inertia.
Translation into reality, into practice.
Inertia.
What you learn.
So let me set the context here. So in case of this IC Innovator Club, the idea is to help people like you get more innovative in the sense that let's say you could network with someone and probably start something, right? That is one. maybe the second is that you didn't know about that innovation before, but it could be useful to you. The third could be that you have innovation but is not reaching other people. So these are the 3-4 ways I am able to think. But in terms of your pain, this is what you are telling me. So if you have more pains, please.
Defining ROI, that's the biggest challenge which I see, that when we talk about digital technology adoption in various operations,
Right.
the target segment or the target user says that, okay, where is my ROI for this?
Okay.
So we are talking as a IC Innovators Club as a model.
Yeah. So
We have to let's focus on that. We are
Yeah.
going towards how it's what it should work,
right.
right? So in that terms of pain, that we are here, how many are grassroots? So there are lots of grassroots ideas
Right.
which might emerge from this platform. So student very in beginning, because your gray matter is higher when you have students, that are missing here because of the cost.
Okay.
So that's
So
why.
cost is one
So
pain.
innovations are also, in my terms, it's also somehow age related. It is as per science. It is innovation ideas generally also, because your mind becomes biased with time. So we need to have more.
But
More and
Arvind,
more
Dr. Arvind started at the age
Much
of
later.
58.
Much later.
I'm not saying contradicting is not there,
No,
but
no,
it is some
neither I want to
sciences.
contradict.
It's
So
not
all
like
ideas are
it's an
there.
ideal fact. I'm saying it could be. So with that masses
So
are
you are
not
saying
present.
that
That also related to the volume, which can reduce the cost. So it is solution and pain also. So you can say that more and more grassroots.
Long distance.
long distance.
Yeah, long distance.
Long
From
distance.
outside Delhi.
Yeah, yeah.
Technological intervention, so that those who are not traveling can be the part of the system in technological driven process.
So
Not as in,
I would say,
you does not have to travel nowadays.
I would say two more. Number one is, let's say there is an innovation in your mind, but that's not part of your core competency. So there is little time to spend on the innovation because you're busy doing something else, which is part of your daily routine. That's number one.
right.
And the number two is the marriage with technology. It is possible that you are doing so much of your core competency work that you have little time to invest in gaining knowledge about another technology. So IC Club is pretty useful for that.
Right. So so we talked about some pains, but let's now talk about some gains. Forget IC forum for a moment. Let that be a neutral thing. But if there was an ideal engine for you to get innovation, what all gains you could have seen? If there was a forum that you were to run in an ideal setting, what gains it could have created?
Marriage could be easy.
Marriage.
Marriage of healthcare with technology could be
Okay.
so much easier.
So more idea.
Status symbol.
Status symbol.
Mentorship is another one.
Mentorship.
Because in the field of product development or any innovation, it's like seeing the product through till the end to making it successful.
Right.
Requires or is really gets benefited if there's some mentor who's guiding it through and has already seen the process
Right.
and can avoid the and can tell and help avoid the pitfalls made by an entrepreneur while going through that entire process.
From my side, it could be a good forum to establish a working collaboration with the right kind of organization.
Mhm.
Wider database size.
Right. So could we
That's
say
very-
network?
Yeah.
I would also say validation of one's idea.
Validation?
So you have an idea, and a forum like this and a joint venture would validate that idea is workable.
Okay.
Failure mode analysis are easier.
See, again,
Because
I am
we
just doing
generally
this as a
discuss-
prototype, and maybe IC Club is not the ideal topic
That's what
for
I'm saying.
such a thing. But this is just to showcase, right, that, and not probably everything, the idea is not to challenge anybody's thought here, because that's the first rule, that we are not here to debate. The idea is to bring as many ideas possible. So two rules here whenever you are doing it. One idea at a time. So it's better to have sticky notes, writing one idea at a time, so that when you are able to choose or let's say refine it, you can easily translate them from one piece of paper to another. Second one is that in such a room it's easy to get into debate. Maybe she doesn't agree with me, I don't agree with her, but if I don't write that, we are missing that idea. So whenever I'm just challenging you, just that's in a humorous way, not to contradict any of your ideas. But I would stop on this side right for now, because again we have to fill in jobs, customer jobs. Again, this could be very specific to each one of you, if I would have taken. Like Professor Paul talked about segmentation. Right? So maybe if I were to deal with working professionals, their jobs would have been different vis-a-vis students, vis-a-vis, let's say, innovators or entrepreneurs, because maybe their schedules are even more busy. But let's say, hypothetically, to come up from this side now, let's say we launch this club, right? Now I could write 5 things which are pain relievers, or I could write 5 gains. For example, networking. So is this club today providing you an opportunity to do networking? So I would put networking here. And networking is matching to this side. But let's say here it is written, let's say, a status symbol. So maybe we ask Dr. Singh next meeting to be in the golf course, for example. So then we are taking the, from a normal place, let's say, to an elitistic place. And then the club starts delivering all of a sudden that it's also becoming a status symbol. Or somehow we are so connected or we are so resourceful, let's say we do the next meeting with one of the chief minister, for example, at his place. So then all of a sudden, let's say today we are not delivering this part of the customer gain, but this becomes an insight for us that, hey, we can also provide through club a status symbol, but we need to do something more to do that, right, which we are not doing today.
I can add one more during the discussion that has happened during tea break, that Dr. Kalankar says that why don't you guys come and do this course at Nagpur?
Right.
So there is the association with the Doctors Association. I
Right.
think that will be a great take home for me at least.
Right,
So
right.
hopefully that will translate into something.
Yeah.
And doing part of your course online.
Right.
We don't have the opportunity to get. So there is information, and I have no access to it.
Correct, correct. So I think that's point well taken. When you said
The status in our country sometimes is misread as resource intensive, material resource intensive.
right,
But there are statuses like knowledge itself is a status,
right,
which fortunately in our country is relatively cheap.
Right.
So the status need not be linked always to resource intensive things like golf courses, like the chief minister, but a very well presented knowledge intensive thing can be a status.
no, but
symbol.
not to really disagree with you. I think point well taken. But let's say in case of grassroots innovators, they are considered very crazy people in their communities. So when President of India is able to host them for once in a year or for a week, when they go back to their communities,
Yeah.
people start taking them seriously. So sometimes, recognition or acknowledgement of your innovation by high authorities is also important. So I'm not saying that we do this for club members, but what I'm saying is that to get innovation as a more serious thing, at least I think Sarvesh and we were going to Nagaland and we have seen a lot of people, who are doing some good innovation, but let's say they do not have the platform. So this person who is organizing this Shod Yatra, so every year he is doing this twice, and then he brings some hand-picked people with President of India is hosting them. So when they go back to their societies, they have all of a sudden a good recognition that President of India has recognized them. So I think I was coming from that side. But anyways, to stay academic here, so let's say if I would, as IC Club, put some gain creators and pain relievers, they should be, mapped here. And maybe some of them I will not be able to fulfill today, but that gives us insight that where we can take this club tomorrow. But this is the whole idea of doing this exercise. So you can take this sheet every time you do your customer interview, and since you as a product developer, you know that let's say in Max you're building some e-service, you know that pretty much. But you can try to see how much ground you're covering with that service development, right? Yeah.
Doubt here,
Please.
that, in the book it has been described that getting the job done
Yes.
means the one thing that the person This is what the description means. And in addition to that, he is looking for other gains, like the consultation being done on time, for
Right.
example, or the diagnosis being correct, or
Right.
his investigations being done in the same place,
Right.
and his medicines also available there, and being generic or whatever it is.
Right. Right.
That was how I interpreted the book as. Is that right?
No, ma'am, you are correct. So as I said that we are doing this in a very different context right now, because club is a very different context versus a hospital.
Yes.
So if anybody would have volunteered here, so I can do this larger business model workshop with a concrete example. So who wants to volunteer, maybe just describe your business, and then we all can brainstorm on that.
I can add one point here.
Please.
You can complete this by making a quadrant where less pain and more gain.
Right.
And somewhere there is a pain more, but gain is less.
Right.
So it will, and somewhere there is a, if you can trace out these pain points where there is a high pain and
Right.
high gain.
Right.
High gain, and somewhere there is a less pain
Right.
and medium gain.
Right.
So if you can just choose certain points where
Which are low hanging fruit.
so in that way you can categorize these things,
Right.
then you can make a better strategic decision
Right.
than only just this for example you think about hospitals.
Right.
Hospital mein there are certain points there the pain is very less but gain is very high.
Right.
Think about these things, there is not much attention is required.
Right.
But still we cannot categorize those things. We think that all are same kind of pains and all have same kind of pains.
Any reactions? Paul?
So for example, you see just talking well with the patients very cordially and just giving him some assurance that your disease will be cured. So this is very less pain, but gain is very high. And you all are doctors, you know. But somewhere there are certain procedural issues like your operation issues, and there is a huge investment, and also there is a substantial gain.
Right.
So where you will prioritize, then you can take a strategic decision by collecting this thing.
So I think point well taken, but I don't know from an academic research point of view whether certain kinds of these issues have been categorized in terms of the ROI.
Well, what you said points to the fact that doing this kind of business model canvas is not easy. As you meant, many say that they spend days and days on only one box. So,
Yeah.
for example, if we now would have enough time, we could engage in an endless discussion about the pains and the gains, and who decides what is a pain, how do you measure that the pain, what kind of pains are there, and the same with the gains. So I mean, this is a really deep issue, and then again you would have to segment it on different, let's say, different levels of seriousness of the medical condition. I mean, if you're about to die from something, then it was what is your pain and what is your gain and what is the value of each, and then if it's a trivial health matter, then how would you scale these different things? So point I think should clarify that the canvas should be taken very serious. It's not something that you jot down during a tea break, because all the issues are deep and very sort of substantial.
Right. So as I said that I'm just trying to do some role play here, and my example also is not directly correlated with, let's say, a hospital setting, but it was a club example. So we also wanted to bring some insights for our own benefit, because I saw Dr. Singh was sitting there, so maybe he also gets some ideas. What are his customers' gain and pain? But once, as I said, that you can always do this, with variety of your customers, then you have to do synthesis, right? Because you have to take, as I said, if you start building these kind of, sheets, you you can take them back and, like Paul mentioned in his talk, there are 9 components, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, right? So you could split this side and this side. So this is more about your product's movement, right? So who would like to volunteer with a product here? Anybody? Can you describe the product?
Yeah, I mean, I could try.
Use the mic.
With this, so what are we trying?
So basically, Claren would help me.
Yeah.
So we would want to understand your product. So
Okay.
maybe you can describe your product in 2 lines.
Mhm.
Then we will together want to, based on the description, 2-line description, anybody can try saying value proposition of that product, what that product could ideally do, and write sticky notes here, right?
All right. Okay. So the product which we are building is basically trying to solve the most important problem in the healthcare sector, which is in India, that is non-availability of data. A lot of interactions happen between the healthcare professionals and the patients, but due to unfortunate reasons, the electronic health records, the electronic medical records, which is very popular, let's say in the countries like US, Finland, is kind of failing in Indian market. So what we say is that because of that, the communication between the medical professionals and the patients, which should be created, is non-existent. So we are trying to create contextual-driven patient and medical professional healthcare communication, and that is going to be the core of the product. And we want to make it so that it doesn't interfere with the current existing workflow of the medical profession. So that's why we are using voice, because everywhere, be the patient is educated, uneducated, one thing is common. Every consultation, every interaction between patient and the medical profession, voice is the core of the communication. So we are trying to leverage that, use technology, which is basically the artificial intelligence and machine learning on top of it, and create those non-existent health records, and then leverage on top of it to do a lot of benefits which we can describe later. So that's a core of it.
Right. So what is the value proposition of your product?
Well, the first thing is that the thing which do not exist is basically every interaction which happens between.
Can I say a record?
Yeah, a medical record, yes.
Complete medical record. Now also we have a medical record, but they are not incomplete because that is not getting recorded.
Right.
So we are going to use voice to make a complete medical record.
Right. So it's a transcription of the voice conversation, but let's say assisted with a computer algorithm, putting down a more structured data, right?
Right. Right.
So is this product clear to everyone?
How is it different from Dragon?
Well, ma'am, Dragon does not work so efficiently in the Indian market sector, and we are talking about the languages which the communication is happening in India. So it could start from Hindi, English. So I mean, in our research, what we identified is English is the most common thing, at least in this region. But if I go somewhere it's down south, that's not going to be happening in Hindi and English. It's going to be in Tamil. So we are talking about the vernacular part of it. So that's why.
I think you both are well aware of the product, so not to lose
Yeah, sure.
everyone. So
Okay, one comment about this.
Yeah.
The way that you describe your product, there are 2 parts into this, the way I see it, right? One is the language conversion part, right? And second is that whatever data you have gathered from language, whatever recording you have obtained, doing the structuring, converting that into structured data. That's the second part.
Sure.
Which one is your core part? Because the first part, there are multiple solutions already available or various startups which are there who are already doing that development. The second part that you talked about is something that I have not heard about.
True.
So which one is your core part? And maybe it will be good for you just as a high level idea to identify that this is your core part, focus on that, because it's not going to be that easy either. And maybe partner with somebody else for non-core part.
True. So point well taken, sir. the first thing which you said is that the data point which is not there should be generated. So that's the first part, right, which you're saying. So that's the core part to start off with. To answer your second question, we are not aiming for the moon on the go. So we are asking that from the first part, what's the most important information which I can extract, which is doable for the technology to the time being, and give the value and the benefits to the patient and as well as to the medical professions. So for the patients, we are giving them those important instructions which they miss out when they interact with the medical professions. So they have something to hold on to. That's the first part. I'm being a very basic level. And for the medical professions, it is about the patient fallouts which happen because the patient do not understand the instructions. B, they do not want to follow what the doctor said. C, it could be because of just simple miscommunication which happened. So we want to extract that particular part of it and reduce those revenue leakages which happens because of those non-follow-ups or the patient follow-up which happens.
Okay, I have to stop you because just to play the part of the workshop, let's not get into the problem of how. The problem with engineers is that as soon as you start off a problem, they start with the how. So
I'm not exactly. I'm sorry, but I'm not exactly clear as to what you're doing. I'm terribly sorry.
So let me steal the show from him because
So is he creating a database of number of heart disease patients?
No. What he is saying, let's say there is a black box device.
Yes, which is next to the doctor.
Which is next to the doctor.
In the consultation room,
comes.
which is capturing voice.
Which is capturing voice.
And a consultation voice.
Yes.
From which he's going to pick and choose the keywords.
No. So let's forget the how part.
No.
Now let me give you the workflow. The patient walks in.
Yeah.
So we are only talking about say an OPD consultation.
Yes.
We're not talking about all kinds of consultations.
Right.
The patient comes in. There is a black box. Maybe the patient is not even aware. When the patient walks out of the clinic, let's say the compounder asks for a number like a Domino's or a Pizza Hut asks, and the number is entered. The conversation is sent on a WhatsApp. Let's say for a
Transcriptions.
Yeah, the transcription of the discussion, and let's say automatically picked up if the doctor is saying that you don't take this medicine with milk.
Right.
So this is an important statement which the doctor made during the conversation.
Right.
But is that being reflected in a traditional parcha which doctor writes, right? The prescription. So the idea of this product is that we record this conversation at the first.
Right.
Then at the second level, what all innovations can be brought out which assist the patient. Let's say the doctor said that you have to walk every day 1 kilometer.
Right.
Now the app can tell the patient that did you walk today 1 kilometer?
Okay.
On behalf of the doctor. Now the imagination can run wild and that is what we need to capture here. This is just my imagination on.
Is he on track?
90%. Again, the workflow is different, but as you said, I mean, we're not getting to the how part of it, but I hope the gist is there that a lot of information, critical information flows from the doctors to the patients, and can we get the gist of it, the critical part, most critical part, and then use that to provide patients more benefit so that they do whatever they're asked.
So what I'm trying to figure out here is, just once again, is that are you creating value proposition for the patient? Are you creating it for the doctor, or are you creating it for the medical community as a registry in general?
So the first aim is for the patients, that the patient outcome should be better.
Alright?
Second thing is for the medical professionals also, because when we interviewed and researched, we found that the patient fallouts and the patient not following us is a reality. So can we create that communication which is non-existent between the doctors and the patients and use that to bring those people back at the right time, not like after 3 months when they have already missed on a lot of things. So that
So compliance.
Yeah, for the compliance.
Better medication compliance.
Yeah. So I think what essentially I'm trying to bring is, because I'm running against time, is that those keywords that should be captured here. So for example, he's saying better medical compliance is a value proposition. Now, like you rightly asked, for patient or for doctor. I think for patient at first place, but doctor would also benefit, right? So I think the problem with this situation right now is that since we didn't give you this case at, let's say, before you came here, otherwise you could have read the case and because we are doing this impromptu. So we are going to make some wrong assumptions, but the idea is for this crowd to participate Is now everybody clear more or less on the product idea? So maybe just to increase participation, any new hands on value proposition?
I just wanted to reconfirm what you just said, because we're looking at something similar,
All right.
but and I on a learning journey quite similar to what you were expressing. What we find is that when patients, and I can take myself as an example, I come out of an interaction with a doctor, and I come home and somebody says, "Well, Susan, what happened?" I really don't know. You come out of it and say, "I don't know really what he said or she said," and so the narrative is missing.
Right.
The narrative or the story of what happened there is missing from a patient's perspective.
So how should we write it in one?
I'm reconfirming for you. Absolutely, I resonate, or we resonate with what you're saying from a patient's outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having sat through 100 odd consultations with maybe 15 odd specialities, as soon as the communication starts between the doctor and the patient, and the attendants also. So I mean, as you know, in India, it's like a patient is always attended is with 2 or 3 more attendants. They go completely berserk because a lot of things which come out from the doctor's mouth, even though he wants to help him out, but
So I'll get one word.
yeah.
Can you say clarity of instruction?
Clarity.
Compliance. I think compliance is the right.
What is the key word for?
Memorization of the
Narrative?
real facts.
For me, it's narrative.
Narrative.
Yeah,
Narrative.
it's the story. Yeah.
So the point is that we are not trying to all agree. So everybody can think different. And the idea is to capture all of it here. Anybody else?
From doctor's point of view, increasing medical legal cases, it's a real-time data stored. So in the future, if something fails, it is because it's a real-time instructions. So as the pure data is a very big in the future,
So what
might
would
be
you
called
say it in one
medical
phrase?
legal procedures help for data.
Medical
legals.
I think I'm not sure, but a consent for this is going to be required.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
That you're being recorded without your knowledge is
Yeah.
not acceptable.
I would say it's the doctor's insurance against medical legal cases. Because you are recording what you are doing, and if
Right.
people as well as the others record.
Right. Anybody wants to add?
Can I just like add? Okay.
Anybody else wants to add to the value proposition?
The availability of different languages, the vernacular part of it.
Okay.
Time saver.
Time saver.
The consent is so important because communication between the patient and doctor is supposed to be privileged.
Privacy, right, sir. Right.
And unless you have safeguards of that data not being leaked out, you cannot implement.
Absolutely, sir. So that's what I was trying to bring
But
that.
let me
Those things
clarify,
are
this is value proposition box. So we are not talking about what could go wrong. We are talking about what product can offer to the target segment. In this case, let's say just to constrain ourselves, we are talking about patient as a target segment. If this ideal product was available, what could be the value proposition we are talking about? So any more ideas?
If the patient is not educated, we can even go back and get the consultation from the family member. For example, my mother, when she was here, got a medication done and got the medicines. And at home, we went back to village and she is not consuming because she doesn't know how to consume the medicine. So she is playing very safe, let me not take.
So how will we put it? In
So
one
this can be, if there is a recorded message,
I would say
and any member, our
replicability
grandchildren
of
can
message.
help her.
Right?
I
Our
would say
grandchildren
So
can help her.
it's an easy reference.
Yes.
Replicability.
Easy to,
Ready reference.
medication, easy
Yeah.
medication is
So
possible.
just for the sake of it, let's stop on this box. So does this brings clarity to everybody what we need to capture here, right? And again, Professor Paul, you can always correct me if I am going wrong. But the idea of value proposition is to capture as many values. So we are not restricted until here that what we have today. Let's say we are doing this business for 10 years. So what could come in the 10th year, we could capture it. Because it's just an exercise, right? Once you do that, so this part of the business model, right? It's like a circle, right? So when you have this product, you need to talk to your customer, right? Typically like what Paul referenced in his case, airlines, how does an airline talk to you? The send you SMS, they send you email, right? So that customer relationship is managed by through some means, right? So that part we capture here. In order to deliver this product, we need a channel. That we capture in the channel part. And here we cover, like Paul mentioned, that we start slicing. So let's say when we talked about patient here, we're only talking about not a patient which is there in the critical care, but we are talking about a patient which is coming for OPD, right? So the idea is to capture all that. So can we do a very quick 2-minute each brainstorming? So in this case, how do you manage your customer relationship? Idea number 1, 2, 3.
Standees outside.
Standees. Is that how you manage your
No,
relationship?
because that's the easiest first entry point. He knows what he's doing. Is that what you want for
No.
communication?
So relationship is when you are using this product. Right? How I am getting your feedback?
Online chat.
Online chat.
Yeah.
So that is, let's say, 1. And maybe you can clarify, Clarin, here also write in the customer segment OPD patient. In your mind, let's say, do we further need to segmentize this OPD patient?
Just 1 second here. So he's making this product primarily for hospitals and doctors. Is that
I
correct?
think
His customer
the
base.
clinic is a better.
Okay. So nursing home.
Yeah.
So you're looking for communication with the clinic.
With the patient.
Yeah. So how is the customer communicating with the business? So that's the customer relationship law.
For their business, customer is clinic.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we have to think about the clinic, right?
Yes.
So for clinic,
Email.
they need to provide solution. Let's go for 500 people first.
Mhm.
We will give a door-to-door interviews, and so that your feedback is confirmed, your system is validated. That's my knowledge. Let's say I'm giving you thing,
Hmm.
and I'm validating myself as a provider.
Right.
At least for 500 patients, I will go for the direct interviews, do the needful, give you the validated report whether it's working for you or not. If it works, you have a 5 years contract for all application. If you're not working, you're happy.
No, but
Selling point
that's
of view is
the
related.
journey of building the product. But we are saying product is there.
The product
So
is
the black
there.
box is
Product-
there.
Yeah, black box is there.
And he wants to give it to the docs.
Yeah. So let's say, I'm just saying, and you can correct me. Here, somebody mentioned online chat. Right? Let's say that transcription which was given, it's doing a bad job in XYZ language. So how is that customer giving me feedback? Or there is some new idea that customer wants to give me.
Okay, email and toll-free number.
Email and toll-free number.
So basically your customer is the clinic who purchases your black box. That's right? It's not the patient.
It's not the patient. Patients are the users of the
Patients are the
clinic.
I agree. So
The
there's a
doctor-
bit of gray area here. But let's say if we talk about customers of the product, right? There are 2. One is the doctor, which is buying, and one is the patient who is benefiting. So let's say for the context of this workshop, let's agree that the customer is the patient.
No, by definition, a customer is somebody who pays.
Correct.
So if the patient is not paying for that black box, then it just becomes a consumer. That is the problem with health sector.
Correct.
In health sector, the person for whom you do all the benefit may not necessarily be the man who pays you.
That's the uniqueness of the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
And it always happens. It is not the ideal industry for thinking that who is the actual buyer. Indirectly, customers are paying it
Right.
through doctors. So
what
actually,
do you want
they are the users.
So I mean, as everyone is saying rightly that on the go, your first interaction for that selling is going to be happening with the nursing homes, clinics, hospitals, doctors, medical professionals.
Right.
So
Validation is part at the level of customers, because ultimately doctors are going to buy or recommending to others is on the basis of whatever the problems you are having with the customers.
Right.
So if the manufacturer is not providing customers validation to the clinic, the product that means this channel of emailing is till level of the customer and should be shared till the manufacturer level, so that there should be a validation system. So all these things which are coming from that is not from the clinic. It should be at the end level, like SMS alerts or say SMS alerts, or whatever they are facing, they can send an SMS. So I can add SMS alerts.
I think
Feedback
So I'll
alerts.
have to cut you right now because
Time is it.
time is always a constraint on me. Because I have to run this full, and I don't think that I will be able to give you a chance to run it today yourself. But if we are able to complete this case today, I think that itself will be a good, way of dealing with it. But whatever we put here right now, it's very sector agnostic. Whether it is SMS, email, so it could be very well the doctor sending the product creator, their feedback. So we are not going wrong. So
Yeah,
whatever we cover here, it's just showing that how are you managing your relationship with the customer. Because in today's world, we all know customer is the king. Your future product development totally depends on how well you are able to get feedback. I mean, that brings me to the part when I was in Finland, Nokia was going like this, so everybody was really sad. And I had some friends who were working for Nokia in India. So somebody told me that when the touchscreen phones were being launched, some of the Nokia executives said that Indians are eating with hand, they use a lot of oil. Who is going to touch with an oily hand the touchscreen? So they dismissed the touchscreen phone because they thought the customer is not going to use. Today we know for whatever reason the touchscreen is popular, and Nokia was a market leader at that point, right? And for some reason it lost that bet because I think they didn't have a strong customer relationship. So I can attribute it to that box. So I'm sure there are another 1,000 reasons why it didn't succeed, but I'm just taking a personal example that the product development in Nokia missed this one big bet, which was of touchscreen phones.
You're right, it was their lack of understanding and the customer relationship which was the main cause of this.
Exactly. So
one visit, I just recall, one visit to their service center, there were long queues. There were 50 people standing in the queue to get something repaired.
Right.
So if you have that kind of a customer service, who is going to buy that phone?
Right.
Whatever innovation you may do in the technology.
Yeah, I mean, because my professor used to head Nokia for 10 years, so I knew this very closely, that it was a very painful thing in those years, that how the company was going down. But deep in my heart, I also knew that if Nokia is doing a good job, the phones are selling, but how Apple, which was not a traditional phone manufacturer, comes and takes over the segment, which they were very good at. So this is just to make you aware that when you are building a product, your customer relationship is very important, because maybe those 1,000 doctors which are going to use your product, they will give you those ideas for next 10 years, right? So as I said that our customer segment is OPD patient here, but do you think that this kind of product could address some other category of
Preoperative counseling.
preoperative counseling? Anybody else?
Analytics part, this whole database which is getting created can be used for, let's say, knowing the diagnosis by less trained persons. We are creating this whole database which will become a whole lot of
Right.
analytics onto that and create.
So could we
Can be used
delegate-
for second opinion also. Since I have the recorded message, I can use it for second opinion, seeking the second opinion.
So what is the interesting part right now? Second opinion, or this predictive, or all this comes into the value proposition.
Very properly,
Right? So that would have been a beauty that, let's say, if you guys were doing it, right now I am the bottleneck to put this thing. So if you were 10 of you were doing in 10 different groups, the more variety of ideas could have been captured in each of the box. But just to prove this thing, now let's come to this channel part. So I don't know if you could see this truck here. The idea is, in a very traditional way, when you build the product, you have to take it to the customer. So in this case, how is the product being delivered to the customer? So the channels, yes.
Sales team and distributors.
Sure. So since we are just starting up, right? So I think references first counts for us a lot, because as we understand that it's a pretty close-knit community. Which, if I have good reference from one of the sections of the doctor, then they do communicate about the goodwill of the product, and then it moves from there. Second is,
He's asking how are you going to get it to the doctor's place?
Yeah, he's going to go personally go and convince.
We need a sales team.
so let's say the first, how any small product
So
creation
let's try
happens is
door to
that
door.
you do go door to door for the first 10, 15, 20, and then
So Ankit, for now let's agree, we can improve.
Yeah.
Let's write door to door, right? Now, yeah, no. So let me not jump to done here. Let's say we have all filled this. This 4 pieces are important to understand from a product perspective who you are selling to, how you are selling, right, and how you are getting the feedback. So this is like a loop, right? Because you have the product, it goes through the channel to the customer, the feedback comes. So it's a loop. Now when you do this, you incur cost, right? And then you also generate revenues. So those two come here, right? But I'll not go to them, I'll go to them last, right? But once we have done this, right, let's come to this part of the model, these 3 blocks. So, like what you said, references, right? Or somebody said sales team, right? So we will try to fill in this. So what are my key activities in order to do all this? What are my key activities? Is the sales team my key activity?
Yes.
Doing sales, door to door? So door to door sales is my key activity in order to achieve this. What are my other activities? Building that product, or you could
Design and development.
design and development.
Back office. You need who are you going to talk to? You need a team who they're going to talk to.
Sales
Call
To
center.
identify the
Including
Call
call
Training
center
of
to
the
get the information and channelize and back into the.
The feedback is going to go
experts
somewhere.
with the feedback
Right?
channel.
So my thing is that what are the activities, and some of the activities will require resources. So what are those resources, what are those activities? Based on this context, I start filling them here, right? So in this case, let's say one of my key activities is provide a monthly report to the doctor based on this conversation analytics, right? So maybe one of my key activities monthly report. We are just giving a dashboard to the doctor where they can see, how many people need to come again to the clinic in the next week. Let's say they are looking at a weekly report. So somebody in their office can just call up if needed for checking on the compliance with the patient. Hey, did you walk? So they could have this kind of a dashboard where the system can on a daily basis can generate what a non-doctor person in the clinic can do with the phone.
There's a cost to it.
Yes. I'm not saying there's no cost to it. But let's say if we are providing that kind of a personalized follow-up, that could go into my value proposition.
Yes.
Right?
Customer relationship.
Right? But it also becomes one of my key activities that I need to do the follow-up.
Complete
And-
ecosystem.
Right? And what are the resources I need for this? I need to put it here. Right. So what is very interesting, at least in some of the businesses I am part of, I find this part very interesting, which is key partners. Many people, are not very good at this, right? So in case of club, let's say if I come back to my club example, what if we partner with DBT, which has funded more than 300 innovators, right? So that becomes a key partnership in our case, because we can directly onboard hundreds of innovators. At least we can bring one side of the, equation correct. So in this business, what do you think are the key partners?
Doctors Association.
Doctors Association? But there are so many of them. So how do we choose?
IME.
IME?
Indian Medical Association.
Yeah. Anything else?
Those doctors who have the highest litigation against, the chance of litigation against them, would be the fellows who will first buy this. So you take care.
Controversial.
Yeah, you take care of the anesthesia people,
Anesthesia.
the neurosurgeons,
Neurosurgeons.
the orthopedic, the CBTS people. They have the highest litigations, so they buy this.
Okay.
So you go to the association.
Right.
fertility clinic services.
Right. So you can see how this block is linked with this link also. So as soon as you said neuro or ortho, It's a segment, right? So as Paul also said that the moment you do something in one block, it has a ramification on another block, right? So if I put IMA here, right? IMA is generic, right?
Generic, big canvas.
But as soon as I put orthopedic, so for example in UP we have UP Orthopedic Association, UPOA, right? So I could put UPOA here or neuro or anesthesia, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What other partnerships could be apart from these doctor associations?
Development side, as you said earlier, they identify your core part and then partner with others for non-core activities.
Very good.
Non-core areas.
Very good. So what could they be?
Maybe development, some other development companies, some other startup who is doing NLP part here, and they are who are doing that, and yes, this English and for different languages.
So let's say language technology.
Indian Translator Association.
Right?
Indian Translators Association.
Translators.
Because they do translation authenticate verified.
Right.
So they are actually accepted by the government of India.
And further to be more specific, for example, AIMS conducts so much of OPD in the country. AIMS could be a very
Good partner,
Pilot
good
model.
credibility also,
and pilot model.
right?
Pilot model.
For piloting, maybe some NGOs who go and do this in remote area, if your solution can easily portable, some of those it can be piloted there.
Right.
Those rural customers.
Right.
And whether the company wants to make the IoT of things on its own or want to get it done by the other company as a branch of,
Right.
maybe they are
So
more of
manufacturing.
software. So manufacturing IoT things. Because there's some be a black box.
So-
maybe
so-
I think it's ultimately an app on the phone like stuff, right?
I mean, it's going to be two-way strategy. So I mean, application is definitely one of those, but it should be non-intrusive for the doctors. I mean, it should be like a black box incident. So just to give you an example, Amazon Alexa. I mean, I've heard about
Or
it.
Google Home.
Google Home. So.
Because they have good microphones, 5 or 12, I don't know how many. So that's also important to get the quality of the input. But anyways, we can go into the brainstorming later. But as you see that as we fill the key partners, key activities and key resources.
The other partnership could be innovation incubation centers. Like for example, IIM Lucknow has a incubator center.
Right.
It could be a good partnership.
Okay.
If you are looking for development help, then do let me know. We are setting up the incubation center in Gurgaon. Hardware for hardware development.
So for everybody, I think Mr. Sudhanshu didn't get to introduce himself. So he's with the NASSCOM Center of Excellence for IoT. So right now he's in Bangalore, but they are setting up in Gurgaon as well.
And each center has a hardware lab for all those who are developing hardware products, where we have all this testing and diagnostic equipment are there, and also development kits.
Right.
Sachin, I want to ask a generic question.
Please.
Broad based. Now, suppose you take key partners, you fix this box to this line of the box, and then you move all others in alignment with one block, with one line. Or you fix up a line on the customer segment, and then you move everything else. So everything will be then specific and aligned to that customer segment.
Exactly.
Like if you say customer segment orthopedic surgeon, then automatically on this side the key partner will be orthopedic association.
Exactly.
And if you say
And that's how it is done. So you can do your first mega canvas,
yeah.
and then you can, from a strategic, like what Professor Satya also said about low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Not because you're doing ortho because ortho is the best bet, but maybe you know the ortho people best. You have the confidence that I will crack it in ortho.
Yeah.
So maybe, once you do this kind of a very generic one, you can always design your constraints. In case of Paul, it was very specific in his canvas. It was not like really full of so many things. You would have seen that there were constraints defined. And I think that constraint was bringing the context. So as you rightly said, once you freeze one of the things, you can always remove what is not important. But you can keep adding based on that context what is more relevant. So I think in case of Ankit, it is his duty that once we give this to him, right, after today, because this has wisdom of every one of us, right? So he's taking it away, but maybe in his context, he will define that I'll choose this one, and then he can further redo the canvas. But I think what is more important is that, all of you recognize that these are iterative circles here, these two blocks of 3. Your value proposition you keep adding, there are more features to your product. but this will generate your revenues as you do this. And as you do this, this will generate your cost. So it's easy for me to right now, also illustrate that to you, that of course I need a sales team. Is that a cost to me?
Yes.
Of course. So hiring that people, hiring that call center, hiring that phone line, or hiring that, let's say, I want to send a customer of mine as soon as they go out of my clinic a WhatsApp message, right? So today when I book something or make my trip, it sends me my invoice on WhatsApp, right? So why can't I WhatsApp my patient's electronic record, right, as soon as they are out of my office? So it becomes handy for them, they can go and show it to the, and let's say even going further, I can even generate automatically based on that medicine prescribed, the allergies, the price that it is available in 1 mg, X mg, Y mg, right? So all that can be done once that data is available electronically, right? So of course I need to hire, some of the APIs or technologies to do that. So that will come in my cost, and that will, whatever I do here will come in my revenues. Again, it can be very interesting. Let's say if we are giving it to some of the medical students, medical college, and we are selling a subscription to a medical college that these are live cases and students also have to diagnose. And we can show blindly, this is how an expert does, this is how you have done. Listening to the same patient conversation, right? So now this is a different value proposition, right, that we are coming up with, but we need a running system. Once we have, say, 100,000 conversations every day, I'm sure we can build a model that can be very beneficial for the medical colleges, give them real cases, right? But those are brainstorming ideas, so I'll stop there. So we have half an hour or less than half an hour. Would you want to group yourself in 2 or 3 and jump on to, let's say, agreeing on one problem each? Would you want to do that?
Rather, I would suggest that each problem can be discussed, and this grouping exercise may be taking more time. Because you have half an hour time.
Yes.
And if you discuss 10 minutes, 15 minutes for each. So
What do you mean the problem?
I am telling that grouping exercise and
Right.
discussing that thing, it may take more time.
Okay, that's one point of view. Anybody else? How should we utilize the next half an hour? How many for the group exercise?
Take one more. Would it be good if we actually take a consensus of having prioritizing 3 or 4 common problems, having a brainstorming session here, and probably on emails we can actually connect together to have a final outcome of the same?
Okay, that's another.
This is a service-based model. Let's go for some consumer-based model.
Okay.
A very
Anybody who wants to
And then
give
we
a
can
problem?
I would like to give one problem.
Yeah, please come, Abhinav. So I'll say now Abhinav will run the workshop.
No, I'll give the
No,
problem.
that's the, in case of Ankit, I didn't ask him, but I could have very well asked him. See, my job is only to, facilitate, right?
Sure.
So you can do that very well. So come here. Please describe your, so I think he had a very.
Going back to the city is helping you there.
So,
Just one question, is it worth doing a SWOT on each of these boxes?
strength, weakness, opportunity, threats.
Why not?
Cannot.
But right, it's always, if it brings up something interesting, then okay, if not, then drop it.
Everything ultimately has to cost.
So I think he has been very shy in describing his work. So one of the product, I don't know whether you want me to reveal it or not. One of the product that they are manufacturing for someone else is a nasal filter. We all know about the Delhi smog problem. They have a product for it. I mean, not him, but somebody has invented it in this AIM School of Biodesign, and they are manufacturing that. You want to talk about it, or you have some other product?
Yeah, I have some other product, but I can briefly describe what we do.
Okay.
We do medical product development for companies who want to develop a product or have an idea and want to take it to the stage of product, finalized product. So the idea remains of the person who is we have the entire team of engineers and biomedical people and other professionals and manufacturing professionals who can make the product a viability. So then we do that for certain other companies, and including IIT Ames, they also had some products they wanted us to manufacture it for them to make it scalable such that it can be made into from few pieces to a 10,000 boxes in a scalable thing and consistent with all the other things that go with making a medical product. So we do that for other companies. That was our since we are bootstrap venture. That's how we started with it, and we went through with it, and we did quite a few products for quite a few companies, including some rapid diagnostic tests for glucometers and certain like nasal filters for IIT and so on. But the product that I am currently which is keeping on discussing with all of you and taking your inputs on is a wearable healthcare device which can give which can be used in emergency situation. Let's say you're on the road and you let's say get hit by or something on that sort, or an elderly person, at-risk patient is out on the road and he has a medical emergency. So this will be a wearable device. In fact, lots of wearables are available like smartwatches and so on, which on the touch of a button, an emergency signal and SMS will go to or a call will go to the doctor, to the physician, will go to the home to the concerned loved ones who want to get connected, and it will also so that's it. This is the emergency SMS button or call button. These two are going to be there. At the same time, since it's a wearable device, it will be monitoring your vital signs, which will be your pulse rate and certain other signs which can be monitored on your wearable. And then this data and information will be transmitted right to the ambulance to the healthcare organization which is already tied up, the hospital. So this information is already available right from some of the key indicators. And also another thing, your GPS location will also be given with the wearable, because this is all possible in the wearable. So now this is the idea which I would like to discuss. The key concern is we investigate a lot of smartwatches. We investigate how we can crack them, hack them to make it directly use the APIs to this thing. But we have blocked that. So it's not easy to either be it the Sony smartwatches or any of those smartwatches. That's not going to be easy to crack into their hardware. So we have to develop that hardware for ourselves. I mean, not necessarily partner it with some companies and do it. But this is the idea which I wanted to discuss, and getting feedback from people saying that it might not work in Indian context because people are not, concerned about, not concerned, but people do not believe in the idea that it's worth the investment of maybe that money.
So, should we go to
can I
regular
just to give my input? Andhra Pradesh government is already doing, none other than my own student is in charge of this project. Dr. APJ said long time back that we should devise a very, very low cost, affordable mobile phone, which includes this, and there are 5 stakeholders which receives the call. One is ambulance, 108, hospital, your family member, and another 2 stakeholders, I don't remember exactly. I think a prototype has been developed and it is in place in Andhra Pradesh government. So please check with him. I will give you the contact right now. Maybe during the break. And it's done by IIM student, and he was also not even a technical guy, IFS officer. So he is in charge of this, and Ahmedabad economics PhD. So it is already happening. State government of Andhra Pradesh would be a very good partner.
So,
and it's not a wearable device, it is just a mobile phone, not even a smartphone. It's just a simple.
so based on Professor Venkatesh feedback, we already have 2 key partners: Ambulance 108 and Andhra Pradesh government.
But my concern is that's not a wearable, right?
It's not a wearable.
You cannot monitor.
It's not a wearable, it is a simple mobile phone. Even a smartphone is costly.
But next
less
to
than
this
1,000
rate,
rupees phone.
offline, you can always talk to Professor.
So it all goes to 5 stakeholders.
No, but one key important parameter is
It
not
has to be
captured in
wearable.
that.
It has to be wearable. I've been working on this similarly. On this, absolutely, this is serendipity. I'm kind of a bit in a haze right now to hear all this because this has been going in my mind for the past 2 years now. It has to be wearable. It has to be waterproof. It has to be, you can't take it off. And you need to have, once you press the emergency button, that's the only thing that makes you trackable. The problem is going to come on getting altitude on your GPS location.
Or a precise location.
Precise location within 10 meters, because even Ola gets you at 50 meters.
Right.
You don't get altitude in a tied up with a hospital which gives them accreditation for basic level management for that particular emergency. So he is, the pressing of the call button actually puts you in touch with the ambulance provider, which gets you to your doorstep in 10 minutes of time. At the same time, the message is going to an accredited hospital, which you are aware has got the basic life support system that is required to tackle any emergency, from where he can be slingshot into wherever else he needs to go.
Great. So just wanted to add that
Let me
our
disturb
government has
let
also
me
made
disturb
this
Sachin
navigation
for a
system
while.
called as Navig.
And this is very
The
much
chips are
true
not
for
commercially
schools.
available yet. So I don't know whether
School
we will have
children,
more
when they are moving from
accuracy
one
than
place,
this.
the recent Rian case is the best example of that. Security, forget about health. The security of children and school level is the full thing.
Yes, that's why it's like at risk. And another thing, let's say somebody is staying, many of our, students go abroad to stay, but they care about their parents who are in India, right? So now they do not have any access to like how are they doing unless they get a phone call from the parents. Right? So that information is available to them. Because
So I
we
put
have
two
available-
customer segments, students and elderly. Right?
Hazardous place, employees
The
who are
third,
working
the
in
third in
areas.
the line is persons of dementia and Alzheimer's.
Right.
Because you need to be able to stop. What is that word that you use?
Geo-track.
No, to
Geofencing.
Geofencing. So you want to fence them into a particular area, and you want to make sure that if he leaves that particular area, I'm just a little overcome.
I've been looking at this kind of devices for the past 15 years or so. That the problem is not the device. I mean, any engineer can develop whatever fancy devices that are waterproof. But this is, I think, a question where the SWOT analysis would be proper to do, particularly in the canvas for the partners, because there are any number of schemes and devices that have been developed, particularly for elderly people, but the open question is then when the signal goes, then who is supposed to do what?
Yeah, even
That's where it always fails, and it fails because with the signals there are going to be a lot of unused or useless or pointless signals. There's a lot of false calls that whoever is supposed to take action will be very quickly swamped with calls that do not require action. So you need at least some kind of evaluation and triage function there. That is this call valid? What kind of action would be repeated? I mean, you cannot keep sending ambulances after each call. So that would take a whole sort of different level of activity.
With protocol.
Yeah, so there can be a
Right.
concept at the other end. Which
So
can
we
be
envision that the pressing of the button would involve the call center guy calling up the registered mobile number to find out as to whether it was pressed accidentally or.
But if he's not having the mobile phone,
Something like that. No. So the mobile phone can be in the drawing room and the gentleman has fallen in the bathroom. So the fact that I'm able to call up and this gentleman is not traceable because he's in the bathroom. For example, there's an elderly guy who's fallen in the bathroom, broken his hip, and he presses the call button. His wife is outside with the mobile phone. So the call center guy, on getting the message, is calling up the mobile number and saying, "Hey, I've got a call. I've got an emergency message from this. Do you need the ambulance?" The problem comes when the person has fallen down and is unconscious and is unable to press the button.
Yeah, even I was coming to that. Abhinav, I think the real challenge is who will press the button in case the person collapses. He might not be able to press the button. The other person next to him might not know that he is wearing that wearable. So how does the entire process then start?
So the device promises, or the device promises.
An auto button or something
Right.
when someone collapses.
One second. So the
So
device
we
promises.
have gone into how again.
Sorry. Just let me just answer one thing. So we promise, or the company promises to try to get you help on time, but dissolves itself of the legal implication of the button not being pressed.
But if you have variable
But it
pulse is going down,
Yeah.
and beyond some time pulse is going down. Second is
Trackable.
touch, and that is trackable, automatically going on messages. Second thing is if it is touching the ground with hardness, that is could be the signal sensors of the automatic outgoing call, which could be do incidentally also, and that should be tracked down. That can be the solutions to these problems.
That will be
But-
part of.
but
That is the part.
That,
But that
right now, today's context
This is not
doesn't
that.
cover that in any block. I understand all of you are innovators here in some way or other, and everybody is thinking about the how part of it. But let's leave the how to Abhinav for now. And I think I would probably just say that let's say in partners,
disaster
insurance-
management authorities need to be partnered because they have to be developing through plans in India to have all this emergency infrastructure at local level. Ultimately, it is going to be an operative at the very, very local level. So it has to be local disaster. Till local disaster authorities are not coming into this, because they are the one who are actually regulating. Because your call might be going, but there should be a response
They have
system
to-
to it.
In this, we are looking at the private players more than the public sector players.
so I think you should also talk to insurance companies. The people who have already paid insurance, that's where this device could be given.
As a
So
more
it
efficient
goes
way
out
that-
free with your motorcycle. When you buy a motorcycle, you get it free.
Or especially with the elderly people, their insurance premium is higher. You must have realized that. So maybe we can. When the patient walks out of the clinic, let's say the compounder asks for a number like a Domino's or a Pizza Hut asks, and the number is entered, the conversation is sent on a WhatsApp, let's say for our
Transcriptions.
yeah, the transcription of the discussion, and let's say automatically picked up if the doctor is saying that you know traditional parcha which doctor
Prescription.
writes, right, the prescription. So the idea of this product is that we record this conversation at the first,
Right.
then at the second level, what all innovations can be brought out which assist the patient. Let's say the doctor said that you have to walk every day 1 kilometer.
Right.
Now the app can tell the patient that did you walk today 1 kilometer
Okay.
on behalf of the doctor. Now the imagination can run wild, and that is what we need to capture here. This is just my imagination on.
Is he on prem?
90%. Again, the workflow is different, but as we said, I mean, we're not getting into the how part of it, but I hope the gist is there that a lot of information, critical information flows from the doctors to the patients, and can we get the gist of it, the critical part, most critical part, and then use that to provide patients more benefit so that they do whatever they are asked.
So what I'm trying to figure out here is just once again,
Yeah.
is that are you creating value proposition for the patient? Are you creating it for the doctor, or are you creating it for the medical community as a registry in general?
So the first aim is for the patients, that the patient outcome should be better.
All right.
Second thing is for the medical professionals also, because when we interviewed and researched, we found that the patient fallouts and the patient not following us is a reality. So can we create that communication which is non-existent between the doctors and the patients, and use that to bring those people back at the right time, not like after 3 months when they have already missed on a lot of things. So that will,
Compliance.
yeah, for the compliance.
Better medication compliance.
Yeah. So I think what essentially I'm trying to bring is, because I'm running against time, is that those keywords that should be captured here. So for example, he's saying better medical compliance is a value proposition. Now, like you rightly asked, for patient or for doctor. I think for patient at first place, but doctor would also benefit.
Undoubtedly.
Right? So I think the problem with this situation right now is that since we didn't give you this case at, let's say, before you came here, otherwise you could have read the case and because we are doing this impromptu. So we are going to make some wrong assumptions, but the idea is for this crowd to participate. Is now everybody clear more or less on the product idea?
Yes.
So maybe just to increase participation, any new hands on value proposition?
I just wanted to reconfirm what you just said, because we're looking at something similar,
All right.
but and I on a learning journey quite similar to what you were expressing. What we find is that when patients, and I can take myself as an example,
All that we have put, right? So I think we have only now 5 minutes left or so. So we can keep doing this, but the idea is that once you start taking a case like this, and I think not everybody is lucky, like today Abhinav can share and he can get inputs from all kind of people whose time could be very, very costly in that sense. So I think this forum also in that sense kind of really facilitates that, because individually to consult you for this, you can imagine how costly this could have been for Abhinav, both in terms of time and money. So I think we could also probably do this business model canvas regularly, provided people can send us their business problems in advance, and once we have enough of them, maybe if you think everybody is learning, we can organize that, and that's how, you know, more minds can consider, and maybe some partnerships might also happen if people are open.
Can this be done online? In the sense, can it be done at a predetermined time so that we don't need to travel
Yeah.
to this place?
No, the feedback well taken. We have a webinar license, so we could have very well done this in a webinar mode. But I think first meeting face to face is always a good thing, because now we know each other. Right? So if I am calling you on a webinar mode, I'm sure somebody could just leave their computer screen as it is, and maybe sipping tea somewhere else. That is also there, right? But right now in this context, you are here very much.
Sure.
So we will definitely take your feedback on that. Abhinav, you want to further
Yes, yes.
ask?
Just one last thing on
Yeah.
that. What is the kind of cost structure that you think would be successful? Because what we are considering is a subscription-based model with the initial cost and then subsequent subscription to it. And what is the kind of, when we are considering like, I think initial amount of 2,500 for the watch and 1,000 per month as a revenue month. What do you think that would be a sustainable, something that people would be willing to pay?
1,000 per month, more than I can again.
It will be total failure. People don't like to pay, and unless you establish the real value of that, and it will take some time for you to convince the people that it is really useful and you can say yes.
Probably.
But if I may intervene, sir, what if he gets the one subscription not from the patient or the end user, but from the insurance company?
Somebody else, yes.
Insurance company is going to be the most successful one here, because they're already doing it. They already ask you to walk 10,000 steps a day. They provide you these kind of walkers and all those kind of gadgets, wearables. So this is like an add-on, because they have to evolve on top of that. So this is like perfect for the insurance companies to
So go as a value-added service or an
And what if the children are paying for their parents? And some of them would like to have take care of the parents and know that they are fine when they go for a walk or they go for anything. So in that case, would you think it would be like as a would that kind of population be paying for the elderly population? Would you think it will be?
So I did this.
Elderly people today don't like to be taken care of. They want to be very independent. Some of
It's
them
not that they're being taken care of.
and they might not wear your device at all. Even if the child pays for it.
But
I did this the interview part on about 300 patients who came for OPDs as to whether they would agree, and the unfortunate figure that we landed up was about 249 was what they were prepared to pay as a subscription price. And he said very correctly, $1,000 for an elderly person. For you and me, $1,000 is not a big deal, but for an elderly person who wants to pay out of his pocket and doesn't want his son in the United States to pay for it, 249 or 300 was a price band which we thought would be workable, which was acceptable to get in bulk from an internet provider as a data usage charge.
So 300 per month was a prescription size.
Yeah, so we gave them a choice as to would you pay 100 to 300, 300 to 600, 600 to 1,000, or 1,500 rupees to 2,000 per month for usage of this as a security measure, and our maximum number of ticks came in the 300, under 300 per month.
What about for children? What about for children?
lesser than that you would have selected.
Sorry, sir?
Everybody is anyway with that.
Yes, but again, see their need.
So
they
my
want to pay for
my
it
suggestion,
just-
doctor, sorry for interrupting. Now we can have all this conversation maybe over lunch, but let me first ask Professor Paul any concluding remarks, and we have Dr. Singh also to summarize.
Yeah, I just want to very briefly say that this conversation that we have had here illustrates quite beautifully the value of the business model canvas. Namely that it provides a structure and some kind of discipline that asks that all these things needs to be considered because as Sachin said, we tend to go into some details, focus on the what's and all that, then the conclusion might be loop-sided and left with a lot of white areas. So basically the canvas is a disciplinary, sort of a mental disciplinary tool that forces us to cover all the corners of a business model issue.
Have
I think
you written an article on this thing, or you can share something
about what?
About this canvas and everything?
I already sent it.
Related to the healthcare, this is a general book. So is there any things which is specific using these ideas as applied to healthcare? And as applied to healthcare, possibly in a
What
developing
happened was I have to write it on different
Yeah, well,
studies.
that could be a topic of a new book, obviously. But as I said, healthcare is service production, and service production has to sort of submit to the rules of all production system in the same way as biology has to submit to the rule of physics, even though they are different things. And human behavior has to submit the rules of biology, even though they are different kind of layers. So in the same way, I think the business model canvas has come out from manufacturing and commercial services. So it is a kind of physics of business. It deals with the sort of basic rules that we cannot violate. But your question then brings this whole exercise on a higher level of healthcare, where the system dynamics of the health issues are different. So I think that is the problem, that if we only do a mechanical canvas exercise, it will still leave out a number of things that we confront only in health services. So there are a lot of big question marks hanging in the air, and I think we can continue
I
talking
just
about
want
it.
to say one thing, one last remark. If you see there, the business model canvas is in the middle. That was the tool I saw first time with Alexander 10 years back. Now he has developed this value proposition canvas also, which we did. And now he also proposed this environment map, which is something probably a SWOT on top of this business model canvas. So I think it's evolving in last 10 years. I'm sure in next 10 years there will be.
That's right. I mean, it's the core, and then we have extensions. I might want to add that we spent last week in IIT Kharagpur making one extension to this, and it's called the service machine.
Very good.
And it deals especially with the boxes that talk about the key resources and key activities. So opens up that boxes. So in a while there will be some new findings about that from us and IIT Kharagpur.
Okay. Thank you very much for Professor Paul to come all the way, spend so much of time, and also my another young colleague, Professor. Sorry, I always get mixed up in your names with somebody else.
You can send me Paul as well.
Okay. So both of them from Finland. We had close association, not from today, for many, many years. I've seen it when you were research scholar in Alto when I was speaking. Well, there is when I'm talking to you just 4 minutes, 5 minutes, there's a feedback form in your this. Before lunch, kindly fill it up so that we can improve. Okay, you've done it. Good. Fine. Well, I understand. We will make it more creative. Doctor wanted to say what all she's doing. Next time we'll have 10 minutes for everyone to tell what they have done, what we can learn from each other, and that is the really aim of this particular exercise. What you can do, magazine in front of you, all of you who have some ideas, please do write. That's it. So that goes not only to 30 people in the room, but 35,000 people all over the globe. So you would have the author, little photo, 50 words of the CV. Avantika is doing it from the first issue itself, and she became so popular that she even got married by somebody saw her photo and got married. So she decided to contribute every month, every issue. Anyway, so I have solved her problem. We are having a conference 5th and 6th October, and we will have your card of everyone to put them in mailing list. If they wish to, they can come. The point well taken, we will not have it on Sunday but on Saturday. That is what everybody has said though. So Saturday and Sunday we'll keep it off, unless there is some reason. We will have it alternate month as we are having it. And you would find that we have also taking the idea in Q that why not we have chapters in number of places. Bangalore is requested, Odisha is requested, Nagpur is requested. And in addition, we have accepted that we will also have virtual, where you can see virtually what is all happening. We are also developing, Sachin is developing virtual training programs, and we will be taking it to the next step. Well, I am thankful to the Sachin also and my Alok, who has been our strength, and all my support staff. My support staff is very easy. Though being in defense, I have a 2.5 years delay, and I am very comfortable. My support staff are these two always with the monkey cap. They are all highly IT guys. And there's another one, you told them monkey cap anyway. He develops our websites and all that. They're all IT chaps. They are not, he puts everything, his expertise, they put it on the YouTube, all those things which are being recorded. So everybody is specialized in that. We have around 18 people working. Some of them come to support and help us. And somebody having a business model idea or whatever, I suppose I'll give it to people who have management. I think I've done enough. I will write a chapter only now. Okay, thank you very much. My request is to Susan.
Yes.
Yeah, I want you next to me.
Okay.
Now, the reason I tell you why, you come here first. Sorry, traditionally in India, ladies are respected. And why I picked up Susan Stiman, 2 reasons. They are registered in our health. They are not my competitors, they are my synergy people. And I request Susan to give the memento to my friend on our behalf. You are also in our health. That's all. So I've tied you down, that will be more. Now I've tied you down with this photograph. I also welcome Shri Ram Industrial Research Institute. They have incubator, we have MOU with them. And they have even radiation center for sterilizing the disposals, everything, and referral center, animal house, having 1,000 different kinds of animal, etc., etc. And you are going tomorrow. I requested
tomorrow we are going to welcome you in our institute.
Okay, so I'm showing them all the places, and I'm sure soon we might light up some like-minded people.
Yes,
So thank you very much. Lunch is waiting for you. I'm grateful for your presence. People coming from abroad, Nagpur, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you.